Then I became a trainer and again started out with 4 horses, and here I am today. I'm 63. I think I was 23 when I got my trainer's license. So 40 years.
But
But before that, I was a groom, an assistant trainer. I was a groom. I was a hot walker. In fact, the Meadowlands Sports Complex opened in 1977, and I was a senior in high school. And I used to go down there at night and walk horses for free, just so I could walk horses, just so I could be a part of it. And I loved it, and that was part of my life. I was either going to be a landscape architect or get involved with thoroughbreds, and I got that horse manure in my blood. So that's it. Once that gets in there, it's you can't get it out. So
and right? Where did the love and the appreciation for the horses come from?
well, I mean, who doesn't love horses? I mean, they're just incredible. And I remember the first horse I ever rode when I was 8 years old. He was a hack horse at a hack stable named Mike, and he was a black and white paint horse, and he was like my favorite horse. And if I showed up there and Mike was out on the trail with somebody else, I was like devastated. But ever since then, I loved horses.
And right? Throughout the years, what's some of the good horses that you?
I've been around so many good horses, and I tell people what's funny with me is one of my favorite horses was a $10,000 claimer, because he was such a cool horse. He had a lot of issues, but every time he went up to race, he just gave it everything he had. His name was Ensign Benson, and I'll never forget him. And that was like in 1989, something like that. And I've been around horses. I won my first grade 1 when I was, I don't know, like 28 years old or something. And, was fortunate enough then to train for some top breeders in New York. Carl Lizza from Flying Z Stable, and Chester and Mary Broman, and now Wellspring Stables. And so I've got to get around some nice young horses, and we've developed them into stakes horses. I can't say we ever had like the very top quality in pedigrees, but we've done well for the horses we've had, and we're proud of what we've done.
And what's some of the good rivalries in racing that you kind of appreciated?
It's interesting. I remember some years ago, there was actually, you see some of the greatest things here. And I remember one day I want to say it might have been a smaller stake or just an allowance race, and there were these 3 horses hooked up in a duel on the turf. I think they were all gray horses, which is why it stood out, but I'm not 100% sure on that. And these 3 horses hooked up from the half-mile pole on the turf to the wire. And they just fought it out, and a photo finish separated them, all 3 horses. And I remember those horses getting a standing ovation from the crowd because it was such an incredible race. And it was just like this allowance race or whatever, but it was just, you just see so many great things. I was at the Breeders' Cup several times and just watched some outstanding horses running those races, whether it was like Winning Colors or there's just so many nice horses that ran in those races. And so you think about all those things, and they're just great.
What was it like being the leading trainer in Monmouth
Well,
Park?
I was proud of that because, again, I started there as a hot walker, and then when I started training, I had 4 horses like in 2 different barns. It was really hard to get stalls there, and the combined value of my 4 horses was about $12,000. And so working my way, and I would watch the other trainers, the big trainers there, and there were some really good trainers in that day there, and so getting to that point, I was proud of it. My name still hangs on a plaque somewhere down there, and I was also one of only a couple of guys to win the Monmouth meet and then win the Meadowlands meet the same year. I think that year we won like 110 races, and at that time that was a lot of races to win because there were no 200 horse outfits at the time. Wayne Lucas probably was the biggest guy with a lot of horses, and other than that, most outfits, big outfits had 40 horses, which is kind of what we had. So I was proud because I was born and raised in New Jersey, and again, I started out walking horses for free, and to be the leading trainer at Monmouth Park at that time, and even now, it's a big accomplishment. I mean, it really is. It's hard to do. It's like winning a race at Saratoga. It's the hardest place in the world to win a race. I don't care if it's for 10,000 or 110,000. It's a real rewarding experience to win races here, and I mean, it's just great.
Who was a mentor for you?
You know, it's funny. I kind of started out with a guy that didn't know a heck of a lot about horses, and that's how I learned to train. And then I worked for a trainer in New Jersey named John Mazza, who was a good guy, and we lost him, unfortunately, a year ago. And, you know, he ran a stable down there, strictly New Jersey breeders that he trained for, no claiming, that sort of thing. And I learned good horsemanship from John, how to feed a horse and how to really take care of a horse. And, you know, I feel our horses really still stand out as far as what they look like on the track, and the results of their races, I think, come from that. So then I just went out on my own. So I kind of roughed it, you know, made a lot of mistakes, but learned from the mistakes like anybody else. And I think the thing, if there's one thing about horses and guys that are good trainers, it's having a knack to understand, you know, when a horse is right, when a horse is not right, when they need time, when to put the brakes on. And I've been especially proud of the fact, more than anything, that, you know, we've been able to get a lot of horses through their career without being injured, and fortunately haven't had many injuries out on the racetrack because we were very careful with our horses. And I'm always happy to see one walk out of here on their own without any problems and get retired, whether they're a broodmare or whether they're just done with their racing career.
How important is the men and women that work on these shed races?
They're the most important thing. Everything works together. Everything has to work together. You know, the trainer depends on their assistant trainer. The trainer depends on their riders. Their grooms have to know their horses and every little thing about their horses, because little things with horses are big things. You know, so if one's off their feet a little bit, you don't want to be breezing that horse, or you don't want to be running that horse. You know, maybe there's something going on. So everybody that works here, from the night watchman to the hot walkers, plays an important role, and it all has to work together.
What makes a good groom, in your opinion?
The best thing is that they really care about their horses more than anything. I remember when I was a groom, if I had a horse in, it was like the greatest thing in the world. I mean, I would sit with them all day. I would sit in a stall with them until they ran, whatever. You know, you have to have that love for your horse. The guys that are in it for the money, they're just in it for the money. But there's a lot of guys that really care about their horses. And you see that. You'll have some grooms, and they might not do the best job in the world, but their horses win for them because their horses are happy, you know, and they care for them in a different way. So those guys are worth their weight in gold. You know, whether it was here or when I was back in New Jersey, there's just so many good horsemen. You know, the guys that came out of New England were great leg guys, and you know, and the guys, you know, around New Jersey, they knew what was going on. There were some really good guys there. A lot of those guys belong in the Hall of Fame.